Since I started to make these videos about Antarctica secrets and Nazis and Soviets possibly finding the entrance in the mysterious underworld, I've been hooked on it. So I started to look for other stories and mysterious places that would have also this kind of vibe. And believe it or not, it all ended up in Tibet. It all ended up where Nazis and Soviets were actually going for the answers in regards to these mysterious underworlds and mysterious entrances. And here I am. Welcome to the story of Mount Kailash. Kailash is the most sacred mountain in Tibet. There are so many myths and legends around it. I don't know even where to start. For example, some believe that it's actually a pyramid. Some believe that inside there are some representatives of ancient enlightened civilizations. For Hinduists, that's the house and home for Shiva. For Buddhists, it's the home for Buddha. And I am just starting, so buckle up. This is going to be a wild ride. And very interesting one. Mount Kailash, also called Kailasa, is a mountain in Ngari Prefecture, the autonomous region of China. It lies in the Kailash range of the Trans-Himalaya in the western part of the Tibetan plateau. The peak of Mount Kailash is officially at an elevation of 6,638 meters, but it's been disputed, and we will get to that. It's located north of the western transjunction of the border between China, India, and Nepal. Before we dive into the mysteries of, for example, why nobody up to nowadays has not managed to climb the peak of this mountain, is it true that if you try to do that, then you end up becoming old a lot quicker than you would normally? Is it true that there is some kind of time machine, like a fast track, where you can go to another place and then come back? Is it true that there are some tunnels? Is it true that there are those representatives of ancient civilizations inside? We have to first recognize the cultural and the religious significance of this place, because this place has been considered special since I don't know how many thousands of years ago. So I'm just gonna briefly look into some of the religions and their view towards Kailash, and for example in Hinduism and Buddhism. So I will use very simplified way to explain it, so don't come after me. I just want you to get the idea of how they are looking at this mountain from the perspective of their religion. So in Hinduism, Mount Kailash is considered to be the place where Shiva resides, together with his consort goddess Parvati and their children Ganesha and Kartikeya. So they believe that Kailash is actually Mount Meru, which is like a stairway to a home place where all the divine beings live. And they look at this mountain as the pillar of the world where Shiva resides. So basically they believe he sits there in a meditative state, and this meditative state kind of lies with the mountain itself. Also in Buddhist texts, Mount Kailash is referred to as Mount Meru. They consider it the central thing in their cosmology, and it's the major place where also a lot of pilgrimages happen. According to Buddhists around 11th century, this Buddhist Siddha named Milarepa, he challenged a man whose name was Naro Bochung, who ultimately was the founder of Tibetan Bon religion. It's like an indigenous Tibetan religion that has a lot of similarities to the Tibetan Buddhists. So all in all, this legend goes that Milarepa challenged this Naro to climb Mount Kailash or Mount Meru. It was completely impossible. Naro struggled a lot, but Milarepa, he kind of attracted the rays of sun, and on these rays of sun, he summoned the peak of Mount Kailash or Mount Meru, which kind of, according to this legend, proves how impossible it is to reach the peak of this mountain, that only gods and special spiritual people can do that. Now, I watched a documentary. It was like a Russian documentary, and there was this historian that specializes in Oriental religions. His name was Alexander Maslov, and he said that even before these religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, long time ago, this area and also the Mount Kailash itself, It was a very significant place for shamanism, so they were performing a lot of rituals and even sacrifices there. Moreover, during the 16th century, the Indians and Chinese people considered this place as the kingdom of the dead souls, and only designated people could go there, and before they went there, they had to go through all of these like special rituals. Some speculate that this is why it is so hard to climb the peak of this mountain, because they're literally entering the place where the dead souls live. And people who approach this mountain and try to climb it, there have been people, and we will discuss that in today's video, they feel like once they approach the mountain, they have this sense that there's like a border in front of them, that if they overstep it, they will go somewhere that it's like another dimension. And they also say that they feel like the mountain itself, it kind of pushes away people, like the mountain doesn't want us to come closer to it. Some people who don't even try to climb, but like hang out by the foot of this mountain, say that they have some visions, they see some weird entities, they have weird sensations, and they cannot explain it. And that even more kind of pushes them away from like even approaching this mountain further. As I said, some people tried still to summon this mountain, but why is it so hard to do that? Well, let's look into those attempts. First of all, I have to add that this mountain is located in a very remote area and it's quite hard to reach. It took, in fact, a long time before people even learned that this mountain even exists. Of course, there are legends about kings, adventurers, and leaders who tried to summon this mountain, but none of that has been documented. The real documented stuff started around the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, and this is when the real mapping of the area really started. During that time, Kailash area was explored by a Swede, Sven Hedin, and also subsequently by English explorer Hugh Rutledge and Colonel R.C. Wilson. The last two, after thorough research, actually thought they had found the easiest way to climb it. However, their adventure was disturbed by a snowfall. Thanks to the maps that were created by these men, Mount Kailash became known to the whole world, thus attracting a lot of interest in it. So once the 20th century went on, a lot of mountaineers started to look at it as that's a real adventure. That's what I want to accomplish, because nobody had climbed it, and if somebody will manage to do that, the whole attention is gonna be to them. In the year 1936, adventurer and writer, his name was Herbert Tichy, was in the area. He was about to climb another of the mountains of the range, and he approached one of the local Garpans, which is like the local leaders, and asked him about Mount Kailash. And he asked, "Is it even possible to climb Mount Kailash?" And the reply was, I quote, "Only a man entirely free of sin could climb Kailash, and he wouldn't have to actually scale the sheer walls of the ice to do it. He'd just turn himself into a bird and fly to the summit." This just adds to the whole mystery and shows how much the locals do believe that this mountain is magical, and how they want to protect any from the outside world even to attempt to climb it. Either it's a warning or they just want to scare everyone away. Anyways, in the 1980s, a very prominent and experienced Italian mountaineer named Reinhold Messner was given a permission by Chinese government to summon Mount Kailash. But as it appears, he refused to do that. He said like, "Thank you very much, but I'm not doing that." And when I'm saying Messner is a professional, he indeed is, because like in the year 1978, he summoned Everest without supplemental oxygen. So he's a real badass. Like if anyone could climb Kailash, that would definitely be him. And his reply to his refusal to climb Mount Kailash was, I quote, "If we conquer this mountain, then we conquer something in people's souls. I would suggest they go and climb something a little harder." Rumor has it that after Messner's refusal of climbing this Mount Kailash, Chinese government decided that they will never give permissions to climb this mountain again, because if even Messner is not ready to do that, then who will? For example, in the year 2001, rumors started that the Chinese government has given permission to climb Mount Kailash to some kind of Spanish mountaineer. This caused a stir in the society, and at the end, Chinese government came out with their telling that we haven't granted anyone the permission. Still, climbing Mount Kailash is prohibited. So I don't know, but there will be some other interesting things in relation to climbing and hiking that area. Believe me, you want to stick around, okay? It is alleged that if somebody tries to hike or climb Mount Kailash, they start to get some physical and mental experiences. And when they come back, they are totally changed as persons, and also they are aged. It has been described by mountaineers and adventurers who hang out in that area that they feel like time speeds up there. For example, they say that their nails go quicker, their hair grow quicker, their beards go quicker, and it feels like 12 hours spent in the vicinity of Mount Kailash equals 2 weeks of the normal time. I already mentioned that Mount Kailash allegedly pushes away anyone who approaches it, and it can be seen on any kind of orientation devices, like for example GPS or compasses. They kind of show the mountaineer or hiker the direction they have to go, but at the end they still get lost, or they find themselves in the place where they started their hike. So maybe this could be also related to some kind of magnetic fields in that area. In some sources all around the internet, there are various legends and stories about some brave and stubborn, actually, mountaineers and hikers who still attempted to climb Mount Kailash. For example, there's this story about 4 people who tried to do it despite the warnings from the local people not to do that. So they tried, but they didn't manage to do it. So they came back. But when they came back, they died within the time of 2 years in mysterious circumstances. Another popular story that is circulating on the internet is about Siberian mountaineers who also decided to challenge Mount Kailash. And on their way up to this mountain peak, they suddenly realized that they've been aging so rapidly. They got scared, so they went back. So basically, when they started their hike, they were young guys, but when they returned back, they were like elderly men already. Within a year's time, all of these men died from an age. So this just adds more to this mystery of possibly time speeding up in this vicinity, or maybe we can talk about time traveling. I know what you're thinking now. Yes, it's just a story circulating on the internet. You don't even have the names and dates. Wait a second. I have some real names, some real dates, and some real experiences, and I'm about to tell you about that. Now, I found a documentary that literally showed documented materials from several expeditions to Mount Kailash. And all of those were organized by professional traveler Russian Alexander Redko, and one of them took place in the year 2002. Redko and Russian Geography Society members actually went on a ritualistic hike around Mount Kailash. And I quote, "While we were on this hike, the biological time accelerated and we could feel it. The hike took us 12 hours. During these 12 hours, our beards and nails grew very significantly. This means we aged quicker than normally. Although we were there for 12 hours, our bodies felt and looked like we had been there for 2 weeks." It is also worth mentioning that this expedition, they also put there some time measuring devices just to see how those perform there. So they put there some clocks, chronometers, GPS devices, and all of them did not show any fault. So the only feeling of time going quicker was more like on a biological level, on cell level. Another expedition by Redko was conducted in the year 2006, and again some weird stuff happened to the crew. So some of the crew members actually got burns on their palms after touching the rocks from the mountain. So he took some samples of this mountain rock and he tested it for radiation, but it came out negative. So there was nothing wrong with the rock. But what would explain those burns on their hands? I don't know if they were literally burns, but there were some injuries just from the touching of it. So Redko at the end said that since I could not explain it, maybe I should start believing that this is Mount Kailash punishing us for approaching it, for approaching the forbidden area. Mountaineer Sergei Chistyakov gave an interview also in this documentary that I was watching about these expeditions, and he said that while he was doing this hike, he had this weird feeling that he compared to being high. And I quote, "You are going and then suddenly you start to feel as if you are drunk. You feel so good and it feels like you want to fly. Meanwhile, you also feel like you don't want to move. You can move, but there is no willingness to do so." Speaking about being elevated, Chistyakov also mentioned that you can reach some kind of mental breakthrough there. So all your fears go away, your thoughts become very clear, you can find some answers to the questions that you were not able to find during like normal life. Your tongue becomes very heavy, you cannot speak, and you do not even have the willingness to speak. For me, it sounds like somebody who is describing ayahuasca. I'm not like, I haven't done that myself, but like usually they also say that it's like a trip, that's a trip where you get all the answers. I don't know. The previously mentioned historian Alexander Maslow also said that if we look at from the perspective of the religions, then there is also this notion of seal of silence that is put on people by spirits. So he said that maybe that's also kind of related a little bit to that one. I don't know, but it kind of makes sense. It's very like vague, mysterious, exciting. Well, this physical and mental experience actually can be explained with something rational, in my opinion, and I think in many people's opinion. Because once the mountaineers go higher, they get less oxygen, and in these circumstances, they start to hear and see and feel things that are not there. So that is nothing unusual in my opinion. And also some people who climb, they also have mountain sickness. So maybe this is what these mountaineers were experiencing. People living there are really passionate about conserving the mountain as it is. And they say that they want to do that so that the future generations can also enjoy it. And it really makes sense. For example, in the vicinity of this mountain, 4 most important rivers of India, Tibet, and Nepal have their source. I'm talking about Indus, Sutlej, Brahmaputra, and Karnali rivers. Secondly, a lot of people have noticed that Kailash has the shape of a pyramid. Okay, a lot of things can have the shape of pyramid, but listen to this. It is positioned according to the directions north, south, west, and east. Coincidence? The third peculiarity concerns numbers, heights, and distances. For example, we know that the official height of Mount Kailash is 6,638 meters, but some argue that in reality it's 6,666 meters. To whom belongs the truth? I don't know, because I don't know how to measure mountains. But still, the number 6, it's very present in also other distances and heights. Hear out. The distance from Kailash to Stonehenge, which is already a mystery on the earth itself, is 6,666 kilometers. The distance from Kailash to North Pole is the same, 6,666 kilometers. The distance to South Pole is double the distance to the North Pole, so 2 times of 6,666 kilometers. A lot of sixes there. And if we continue about mysterious locations, Kailash is positioned exactly opposite to the Easter Island, just on the other part of the Earth's hemisphere. And we all know what is Easter Island. It has a lot of mysteries, like those stone figures, and nobody can really explain them. And actually, Kailash mountain fits in very nicely into the theory that all the pyramids on our Earth are mutually connected. And yes, we will look into that also in today's video. We cannot deny that there's a possibility that all of these objects that have these interesting distances in between them, at one point were put on our Earth by somebody else, and it was not done in a natural way. I certainly start to doubt that this happened naturally. How do you think? Now, going away from pyramids a little bit for a while, I also have to point out to 2 mysterious lakes that are located on Kailash. So, they're called Manasarovar and Rakshastal. What's so particular about those? Well, both lakes are placed nearby. It's actually like only 5-kilometer strip that is in between them, so really close. Manasarovar in translation would mean the lake of clean and fresh water. This lake contains fresh water, and actually it's the highest positioned freshwater lake in the world. Tibetans consider this lake to be a sacred lake. They go on pilgrimages there, they drink the water, they swim there, they really believe in its powers. Actually, it is as equal in sacred properties as the Mount Kailash itself. This is how important this lake is. And the water is super clear and clean. You can literally see that. Interestingly enough, the lake is very calm. Even if there is a storm, the water always stays still and very calm. However, Rakshastal is totally opposite. In translation, it would mean the dead lake. The water contains salt water, it looks really, really dark, and it always has storms on it. Even like when the weather is peaceful, it's always stormy. And people, the Tibetans, really avoid it. They don't want to touch it because they feel it's not a good place to be. But in general, it's the opposite of Manasarovar, which is like nice, sweet, peaceful, clean, and sacred. Ernst Moldashev, a very experienced organizer of expeditions to Tibet, he's a Russian man, and he also appeared on this documentary I watched, and he gave his opinions and interviews about that area. And he said that when he was on this expedition to see both of these lakes, first of all, he was very surprised about how is this possible, that one lake has storms constantly and the other one is totally peaceful. And he and his crew, they were literally running from one place to another place just to check, like, really, is it happening? Does it ever stops? Like, that place is always storm, that place is always calm, and it never ended. It is like that all the time. And he said that it felt like you're going from like paradise to hell all the time. So this is actually real. It's not an invention. Those lakes really are like that. And for me, as a person who doesn't understand anything about like geology, geography, how is this possible naturally that 2 lakes so close, like 5 kilometers in between them, are so different? If there is any kind of expert watching this video, can you please at least try to explain how is it possible? Otherwise, I just have to put a seal of mystery on it. And there sadly have not been any like serious scientific researches done with these lakes, and in most cases it's because of like some restrictions created by Chinese government or simply lack of the finance, because this would cost a lot. Now back to the pyramids. I know you'll like it. So one of the most famous mysticists and the founder of Theosophy, Yelena Blavatsky, I already have mentioned her in my previous video. She, in her books, writes that somewhere in Tibet there is a forgotten pyramid. So there has been like some insights of this theory already a while ago, just nobody paid attention to it, but it clicked with the mind of Mr. Moldashev that I already mentioned. And he, when he was doing his expeditions to Tibet, paid more close attention to the mountains and Kailash. And now he is a strong believer, and he's actually pushing forward the hypothesis that Mount Kailash and also other mountains in that range are actually pyramids. So if this is true, that let's say Kailash and the surrounding mountains are pyramids, then this means that these pyramids are a lot bigger and more enormous than the ones that we know exist on our Earth. And age-wise, they would be a lot older than the pyramids that we know we have on the surface of the Earth, like Egyptian pyramids. They would probably be built, I don't know how many thousands years ago. That would be the time when the Earth was inhabited by some other civilizations. I'm switching my Graham Hancock here, but it does really make a little sense. Can Kailash be one of the least researched pyramids of the world? I don't know. There is a possibility. And even if it is a pyramid, it doesn't really help a lot, because there are so many questions then we have to ask. Who made this pyramid? Why it was made? At the end, by whom it was made? And what was the purpose? But if we develop this pyramid theory further in Tibet, and we actually start to think that Tibet has pyramids, then the size is not the only thing that makes them different. So people have noticed that around these supposedly pyramids in Tibetan mountains, there are some weird formations of stone. They are rounded and like flat, and they looks like somebody has positioned them around these mountains. Mr. Moldashev in his interviews calls them mirrors, and they are enormous in size. For example, the height of one of these mirrors, that the local lamas call the House of the Happy Stone, is around 800 meters. To the north of this mirror, there's another one that is around 350 meters high. To the south of the House of the Happy Stone, there is a connection to another mirror that is 600 meters high. What are these mirrors? Well, this actually kind of relates to another very interesting topic that probably I will look into in some of my future videos if you wish, and probably even if you don't ask, I will make it. It's called Kozyrev mirror. It was created by a prominent Russian astrophysicist. So Kozyrev allegedly created a structure / machine that allowed a person's consciousness to travel in time. So the body was present, but the mind could go places on its own. Basically, this mirror is made by using a reflective material, and it's bent into spiral cylindrical shape. So they made a lot of experiments with it, and whoever participated in these experiments, after coming out, they said that they had anomalous sensations and experiences inside. So maybe this is something similar to those mirrors that we're seeing around mountains. Because remember, people who go there, they have visions, they have experiences. Remember the guy who said that he compares it with being high? Let's move to another peculiarity about this area. And we're going to briefly touch again to Nazis. That's a topic that I've been discussing in my previous video. I'm going to put links in the description if you missed them. I want to talk about swastika. Yes, if you say swastika, most of us would probably associate it with something bad, would associate with World War II, would associate it with Hitler. But in its roots, swastika actually is not a bad thing. In Sanskrit, it actually means well-being, good fortune, like all the good things. It's just because of Hitler we think about it as something bad, okay? So I don't think that Hitler chose swastika as his symbol without knowing what it means. I think he knew what he chose considering his interest into Tibet. And many consider Tibet as the center of the world. Spiritually, knowledge-wise, they also feel like if you go there, you will get all the answers for your future life and you will be successful and you will thrive. And also that's a place where you can get the knowledge and use this knowledge to gain power. And this is why throughout the history, Brits, Russians, Germans, they were flocking there to get those answers and think that those answers will help them to rule the world. This is why we discussed those Nazi expeditions to Tibet, and allegedly, I touched briefly upon this in my previous videos, is Nazis learned there from Tibetans some kind of technologies that they could use in order to create machines that will help them to control people's minds. And rumor has it that Nazis actually started to work on these technologies. They wanted to create a machine that would influence certain parts of human brains in a way that they would start to feel and see things that are non-existent, like hallucinations, and basically control in this way every human being that they want. Maybe this technology that Tibetans shared with Nazis actually starts with Kailash. Maybe this is the technology that's present in the area where Kailash is located, because again, I'm going to remind you, people who go there, they have these hallucinations, they have these strange feelings, they have visions, they hear things, they see things. Maybe what Nazis learned from Tibetans actually rooted in the area where Kailash is located. Now, if we develop further the swastika topic, there is this one thing. So on the southern part of the Kailash's pyramid, there is this crack slash split. It's like vertically down, very visible. And somewhere in the middle, there's another crack that crosses it basically horizontally, making it look like a cross. On sunsets, this cross is shadowed and brightened up in certain ways that it looks like a huge swastika on this mountain. In addition, in Tibetan Bon religion, Kailash is also referred as a 9-story swastika mountain. Coincidence? You tell me. Well, geomorphologists are actually very eager to dispute this mysticism around this swastika. They say that this vertical crack was created a long time ago by an earthquake, and it's like 40 meters wide, nothing special, something that would probably happen in any other mountain. But how would you explain the other stuff, like the horizontal line and the lines that kind of finish this look and really make it look as a swastika when the sunset approaches? I don't know. Like, what do you believe? Scientists up to nowadays do not have an answer about how Kailash actually appeared on the surface of the earth. By saying this, I mean they do not know how it happened in natural circumstances, granted they were natural. It is generally believed that the Tibetan mountain range appeared around 5 million years ago when 2 lithospheric plates shifted, but what bothers some of the scientists is that Kailash is actually not that old. Scientists from Russian Academy of Natural Sciences, Mr. Belousov, actually set forward quite a crazy theory. He said that Kailash literally appeared from the underground by pushing away anything that was on its way. So he just basically like came up and was there. And he suggested that Kailash appeared around 20,000 years ago. What he is pointing out is that Kailash was not created by something natural, but it was like placed there or created there. Moreover, which kind of supports this theory that Kailash actually was placed there, is the fact that, for example, Mr. Redko, who went on these expeditions there, he said that when you touch the mountain, you can see that there's like a layer on it that makes it look like a mountain. In some places it has fallen off and you can see that there are like other layers underneath the first layer. So it's basically not a mountain. That's what he's trying to say. If you remember my previous videos, then you know that there was something about some tools that Tibetans had, and by using this tool they could melt precious metals and different hard materials. They used this in construction works to build things. Maybe these tools were the ones they used to build Kailash and all the other pyramids, if they are there. And again, there's a question, who were the ones who made these pyramids by using these tools? we again return back to some ancient, enlightened, and smart civilizations that probably lived before us. And I can tell you more. All around the world, scientists and people have been discovering new pyramids that all their life they've been looking at and thinking, well, it's just a mountain. But at the end, it's a pyramid because it has the pyramid shape and there are some secrets in this mountain. For example, Visočica Hill in Bosnia or Rtanj Mountain in Serbia. Just look at them. Those are clear pyramid-shaped objects. What if the pyramids we know are the youngest ones and the older and more significant ones that would tell us more about ancient civilizations are hiding in plain sight as mountains? The only difference between, let's say, this Bosnian pyramid and Kailash is that you can literally see clear man-made things around it. So somebody had created these blocks and put around this mountain. So, and it's believed it happened around 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. But with Kailash, it's more specific because it kind of doesn't let you approach it. It doesn't let you to take off these layers and see what's underneath. So this leaves us with a lot of myths and legends and leaves us guessing. Also, most of the believers into Kailash being placed in that area believe also in the fact that Kailash is hollow. And they also believe that the same applies to another mountain that's very close to Kailash. It's called Nandi mountain, and maybe to some other of the mountains in the area. According to ancient texts and also some experts who really dive into these Kailash and Tibetan topics, they believe that there is some kind of storage underneath these mountains where all of the world's seeds are placed. So in case the civilization ends, those seeds can be used to make this world start again. Nearby Kailash, there's another very intriguing mountain called Nandi Paravat. I already mentioned it's Nandi mountain. Paravat means mountain. So what is Nandi? Nandi, according to Hinduism, is actually like a gatekeeper or devotee to Shiva. So it's portrayed in the form of a sacred bull, and the local Tibetans, when they look at this mountain, they feel like this mountain resembles Nandi, so that's why they called it Nandi Mountain. The mountain is around 2 kilometers long, around 800 meters high, and 300 meters wide. Many believe that this Nandi Paravat is connected to Kailash with an underground tunnel. Honestly, if we look at this from the a religious and cultural perspective, it just makes sense. Remember, they believe that Shiva resides there, and if Nandi is the gatekeeper, certainly the bull has to live close by Shiva, hence why it's placed so close to Kailash, right? But this is not the most unbelievable theory about Nandi Mountain. You see, the most craziest is that it is believed that inside this mountain you can find all of the most influential spiritual figures that have come down to the earth. And I'm talking Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Zarathustra, etc., etc. And they are all there in a very deep meditative state. The legend goes that, so they are sitting there in this deep meditation state, and they will wake up only when the civilization will die out, and they will wake up to use their genetic code to create new life and new civilizations. Oh my God, I have goosebumps. I don't know if you can see, but remember in the first video about Antarctica's secrets and Nazis, I told you that when Nazis went to Tibet, they learned the story from them about higher beings and higher civilizations that once inhabited our Earth. And after this catastrophe came, only a couple of those representatives of that civilization survived. They went down in the caves underground, but they used their DNA to make this new civilization, which is basically us. It all goes together so well. yeah, I cannot, like, it's goosebumps. And if you're saying that it's literally impossible to stay in a meditative state for a long time, just do your research, Google, because in Tibet, you can find these monks who can stay in this state for tens of years. A lot of them have been found deep in Tibetan mountains, still in a meditative state, still alive, but like in a meditative state. It's so crazy how they can do this, how they can control their body. These people who can sustain this meditative state, they know how to rule their body and get it into the state of anabiosis. So basically the other monks around them, they cut their hair, cut their nails, but they do not consume any food or any water or any liquids. So if we look at this from that perspective, that it is possible, and also add to that these people are like very spiritual figures that had once been on this earth, like, you know, Buddha and I don't know, Jesus, it can be possible. And in the history, there have been attempts to find this place where these spiritual teachers are. For example, in the year 1925, there was this guy named Baron Ungern. So he was a strong believer that this place where all of these spiritual teachers are in meditative state exists. So he created a couple of expeditions. So the first expedition was unsuccessful, but the second one, all of the members disappeared without trace. Maybe they found it. Maybe they just got into some kind of snowfall or whatever. But anyways, this theory, it's very wild. The urge to look for some kind of kingdoms that had disappeared from the surface of Earth, like Atlantis, have always been present. And there is even one in relation to today's topic of Kailash. You see, in Buddhism, there is this mystical Buddhist kingdom called Shambhala. So what is this Shambhala? In simple words, it's the place where a person can reach a complete enlightenment, so the highest of the heights. And the legend goes that it is located somewhere in Himalayan mountains. Check, makes sense. Kailash, right? Why not? And it is believed that if a person indeed manages to find the entrance to Shambhala, which is almost impossible, then that's not it. That person still has to know some kind of rituals and codes in order to open the stone door to Shambhala. In many Buddhist texts, it is said that there are like underground passages that lead to a stone door that has never been opened, and this is the way to Shambhala. And also, Röhrich tells quite a lot about Shambhala. Let me quote you, because this is really crazy. Behind the stone doors in a cave hides the secrets for the future, but the time has not yet come to reveal them. The entrance is very narrow, but then it widens up and leads to a whole underground world. According to this quote, it sounds like Röhrich really has been there. At least he had went through these passages that led to this door that nobody can open. He speaks as if he has been there. And if this is what he saw when he was visiting Tibet, then it's crazy. And if this is what Nazis learned from their expeditions in Tibet, then oh my. But at the end, if we, let's say, at one point find some kind of solid proof that would show us that the crazy theories that we just discussed in this video are really real, I don't really think that we are mentally ready for that. In that sense, I totally agree to Mr. Röhrich. Yes, our technologies are developing rapidly. We think we are becoming smarter and advanced, but the one thing that is the most necessary and what I think is the main ingredient to unlock the secrets of Kailash and all of the rest of the world's secrets is not tangible. It is something that with the improvement of technologies we're starting to lack more and more in society. It's spirituality. Currently, we do not have the spiritual capacity to grasp all of these things. Hence, no such doors, whether mythical or real, will be ever open to us. At the end, I just wanted to say all of this indeed sounds crazy, but we should not completely discard it. Why? because we simply haven't researched and we still don't know everything about our planet Earth. Like, yes, we have done some archaeological work, but we still manage to find something which surprises us, which challenges our previous assumptions about this Earth. And it's no secret that independently from each other in different cultures, there's always this story of some kind of ancient civilizations that were superior of us, that were smarter, that were more knowledgeable. And also it makes us think maybe indeed there were some people before us who already had all of these technologies, already were thriving, already had everything that we are now dreaming about. I think we should believe in that. Why? Because basically all of the books of history and geography that we've been reading and that we've been taught at school, in many ways with time, are starting to become less and less useful because of the new discoveries, because of brave people like Graham Hancock who are pushing forward and speaking about these theories that really sometimes make more sense than the facts in our history books. While I'm on this wave of like spirituality and theories, I just want to tell you, of course, it's up for you to believe in certain things or not. Of course, there's a lot of legends, and if there is no proof, you cannot believe it. I'm also a believer in proof. So yeah, but I will be very eager to know your opinions. It was quite a long video. It was a lot of, again, mind-blowing facts that you have to digest. I know it takes time for me. I was like reading and like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Let me know what's your opinion about this topic, your thoughts about Mount Kailash. Have you heard anything about the facts that I just told you? And yeah, press the subscription button, interact with this video, share with your friends, press likes, comment. My views are very low, but I think I'm talking about interesting topics here, so I really need your help here for the development of my channel. Anyways, have a lovely day, ask questions, see you next time.